Hello. I guess we're doing this, right? So, it has been way too long since I've been behind this mic, just kind of talking to a camera, talking about stuff. But on today's one shot episode, we are going to be talking about 45, what that means to me, and answering a bunch of viewer questions submitted by some friends and family to talk about the next year to come, the years that have kind of passed us by, and what we expect for 2026 and my age 45 years. So, um, welcome. I don't know what we're going to call this. My name's Ryan. Let's get started. Okay, so for those of you that aren't aware, back about 10, almost actually about 11 years ago, my buddy Dave Harding and I had a podcast, and that's the whole reason why I actually have this mic. But yeah, I don't know if I'm actually starting a podcast. I'm getting back behind the mic and in front of a camera, but I wanted to record something. Today is January 30th, 2026. 5 days ago, I turned 45 years old. I know, kind of crazy. These gray hairs on the side of my head definitely support that. But I'm doing this specific recording as a response to probably one of the most thoughtful gifts I've ever received in my entire life for my birthday. My wonderful wife Samantha recorded a video, and not just any video. It was a send up to one of our favorite podcasts, Good Hang by Amy Poehler. Go check it out if you're not aware. But if you are aware, there is this one amazing bit that she does that Samantha recreated so wonderfully, where not only does she speak kindly and speak well behind the back of her podcast guest, but she opens the floor to the person with whom she is speaking kindly behind the guest's back and lets them ask one question about something silly or, general curiosity they may have about that person that other people may not know. So I got to hear from my best friends in California, my sister, some of our best friends here in Ohio, one of my best friends out in South Carolina, all sorts of lovely people that took a lot of time out of their day to record something and send something. So, first and foremost, I just have to say thank you. I spent about a half hour total on the morning of my birthday sitting and watching this on the TV and just kind of weeping to myself. So, like that real kind of the rolling single tear that you see in, all those A24 movies. Once again, it's just thank you. I'm the kind of guy who, if there's like something kind of physical or like an actual like gadget or toy or something like that, I'll get it for myself, right? So like I'm virtually impossible to shop for Christmas and birthdays, but something like this, it's invaluable. I'll never forget it. I'll always appreciate it. So for everyone who took their time to even text or call or write something on Facebook, which let's face it, Facebook is just, there for people to be racist and for, something to remind you when someone's birthday is. So at least the other part is serving its purpose. And, I hear from people that I don't hear from all the time. And so it's really, really nice and touching. So thank you. But we wrote down all the questions here on this lovely snowman pad. And we can kind of take it from the top or just kind of bounce around to see what questions we have here. So let's see. So funny memory from childhood. I guess excuse me if I don't get the answer correctly. Samantha was scrambling to write down all of these questions while I was kind of like weeping on the couch. And so I think this one's from Lindsay. It's like a funny or like a memory from childhood that, like made me, or I guess validated the fact that I was like maybe entertaining or funny or something like that. And so I think the one thing that came to mind for me was, a lot of times you hear these comedians talk about how, like they were like 4 years old or like 6 years old and they told a joke in front of their family and they got the laugh and then from there they got the bug. I mean, I have like fun kind of memories here with here and there with family, but nothing that really stood out. But like the one thing that really stood out for me specifically in terms of kind of really putting me on the trajectory of the person that I am today is I remember vividly kind of around the beginning of this my senior year in high school where, I went to private school but with a bunch of rich kids, but certainly was not among the affluent people, right? Maybe we'll probably get into this. We could probably get into this in either therapy or a different episode, but like it's one of those things where, I wasn't necessarily keen to have, friends come over to my house until, my junior year when, my family and we moved into a much bigger, much nicer house, right? But until then, there was that kind of stigma of people kind of seeing that we weren't, as rich as they were. We didn't live behind a gate. We, up until my junior year, we didn't live in a house with stairs, right? So like, I don't know. But anyway, my senior year, like I kind of gave myself permission to just not care what other people thought, right? I spent all of middle school and most of high school kind of suppressing the joy and kind of exploring who I was out of fear of what other people would think. And, I being my last year at that high school and knowing that I probably really wouldn't see a lot of these other people ever again, I just gave myself permission to just, have fun, be myself. Fuck it, right? So there's this one specific moment which I kind of always look back on as like my coming out party, and it was the welcome freshman rally, beginning of every single year. The sophomores, juniors, and seniors would perform for the freshmen, and the freshmen would kind of, by a round of applause, kind of dictate who had the best performance. And so from there, the senior class, it was, I guess it was superhero themed, and so we had a very liberal kind of interpretation of that. And so it was like superheroes of old school music versus new school music. And mind you, this was like the fall of 1998 going into into 1999. And so where we were with that was like, Spice Girls and, In Sync and so we did old school like the Jackson 5 versus Usher, right? And so like between junior and senior year, I really wore out the record feature in my VCR with music videos on MTV, and that's really where I learned how to dance, which is, by the way, the answer to another question by Dr. Colin Rhodes, who asked, how did you learn how to dance and can you teach me? So yeah, I learned how to dance in my bedroom, watching and rewatching and rewatching and rewatching music videos on MTV. So Usher's My Way came out in 1998, the summer of 98 going into the fall, and I learned that choreography top to bottom, and this was my opportunity to kind of actually show it. And I'd never really performed at all in high school. I didn't do any of the school plays or anything like that. I volunteered, which was already uncharacteristic of me. And yeah, I did that in front of the entire school. I had like the bright green shirt, suspenders, the bowler hat, the clockwork orange makeup on the eye, just like Usher did in the video. If you're not familiar, go look it up. For those of you young people out there, music videos were kind of tiny movies that they played to kind of visually represent a song that you would listen to today on Spotify or Apple Music on a network called MTV. MTV was a network, RIP, that would show these music videos, would actually show music and not show, episodes of ridiculousness, 8 to 9 hours a day. Anyway, but it went off without a hitch. And I remember the reaction by the crowd, and then also getting a reaction from like my fellow seniors, and a lot of whom I had never really interacted with, right? Like some of like the cool kids or the popular kids, I felt like I was friends with or friendly with a lot of people, not really friends with people. But from that moment on, it was like one of those things where it's like, oh, who is this guy? He seems pretty cool. Maybe I'll just be, maybe we'll, give him a little head nod or be nice to him whenever I see him in the hallway. And then from there, it just kind of snowballed. And I got to know a lot more people my senior year than I had known previously. From there, it really, that validation kind of And I'm not talking about validation by like, other people, that I didn't need validation from other people, but validation for, me taking a risk and it paying off and the world not ending, right? That really empowered me to want to continue to take more risks, right? And try new things and put myself out there, because really at the end of the day, like if it goes great, then awesome, great. If it doesn't go great, then, the world doesn't end. So yeah, that was probably like one of the first few moments I can remember that really put me on the trajectory of being the person that I am today. So thank you for that question. What made me want to start to perform? That's from my goddaughter Sadie, out in California. So I guess being Filipino, always genetically that performance gene in you. It's almost it's either you are a performer, you're like a singer, a dancer, or you repress that and become a nurse or an engineer. I did neither of those things, but being first generation Filipino, it's not like I could have pursued performance as a career. I had to have something with a W-2. So those pursuits were happening in the shadows, really. Gosh, just like anyone that actually does perform, if you really boil it down, what makes you want to perform? It's a combination of, kind of doing something you love, right? That if you have the talent for it, then why not share it with the world, right? Sing, act, dance, paint, whatever. But at the same time, like I have to be honest, applause isn't the worst thing in the world either, right? Who wouldn't love to, do anything, any kind of job that you have, and then and then if you get like a round of applause and adulation for doing a good job for what you do, why wouldn't you want to do it? I mean, that's like the greatest thing in the world. So yeah, like it's a very addictive drug, kind of receiving that adulation. It doesn't necessarily drive me, but it sure as hell is a nice byproduct. So, absolutely do love performing. Let's see. Let's keep moving. What do you want more in life for this year? This a question by my amazing sister Leslie out in Orange County, California. That is such a deep question, right? What do I want more of in life this year? I think it's more, I think it's kind of what I want every year, right? I want growth, right? If I were to chart kind of my life year over year, I guess much like a business or anything like that, I want the line to point up. Even if it's like slightly higher than it was the previous year, because a year ebbs and flows, and there are no 12-month period is ever steadily increasing with no dips or valleys or anything like that. But if the net positive for the year is positive in terms of growth, personal growth, career growth, growth in, kind of the development of my passions, family growth, growth as a father, growth as a friend, the growth as a husband, things like that, then of course I will absolutely, count that as a win. Stagnation, especially at 45, is not an option. It's absolutely not an option. Um, Ain't nobody got time for that, right? I am well past middle age at this point, which is really weird to say out loud, right? There's those times in the mirror where I look at myself and I'm like, I can still pass for my late 20s. And then I look at like a photo where I've got like, Samsonites under my eyes, and maybe I didn't drink enough water, so like my, my skin's like super wrinkly, and I don't know, just maybe catch me at a bad angle at a bad day. And then I was like, I cannot pass for late 20s. So, but yeah, growth, positive, moving forward, and then just I don't know, like I like who I am. So like just continuing to be me, spreading the love, spreading the joy, and hopefully having that rub off on my kids. Like that's like everything I do now, especially with the kids being almost 8 and almost 10 at this point, it's going to echo in them as adults. And so I'm choosing to be an example for them to want to be the best versions of themselves unapologetically, right? To go after their dreams. I continue to pursue my dreams, partly because they're my dreams and I want to see how far I can take it, right? And even if I fail, I can absolutely say that I tried. But the other part of that is showing my kids that they can pursue their dreams and they should try. They should dream big and go big and know that I'll support them as far as they want to take it. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So, what do I want more in life? Growth and just being continuing to be a good example for my kids. All right. So, let's see what else we got. Where does Nicole Lepley, the lovely Nicole Lepley, asks, where does this zest or joy for life come from? I don't know. I don't think I've ever taken life seriously. I mean, maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a bad thing, but it's just like, I don't know. It's worked so far, so I'm a lot happier going through life assuming that it's all going to work out, because the alternative to that is really exhausting. It's really exhausting if you are someone that, maybe it's like expects the worst or thinks that the bad case scenario is going to happen. I mean, I can't remember a time where I was ever like that, but if I ever was like that, it was temporary, because God, is that exhausting. And, whatever you believe in, it's, to some degree, I believe in a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Where if you say it and you think it and you put it out there, good, bad, or indifferent, it's probably going to happen that way. So, what's the harm in thinking that the best is going to happen, that the best case scenario is going to happen, and that even though things kind of seem bleak, it's all going to work out. Now, that's I'm aware that's an extremely privileged way to think. And my life and my circumstances and, the support of my family and friends allow me to be optimistic like that. But these are the cards that I have. These are the cards I was dealt. So I'm going to play them. And that's how I choose to play them. So yeah, don't take life too seriously. I mean, it's not that deep, bro. It's not that deep. Let's see. Ooh, there's another one. Caitlin Kerfman asks, who is the most fun celebrity that you've met? For those of you that don't know, there was a time where I used to work in Hollywood. It's very, very cool. The pay and like the long hours and being mistreated by my boss aside, all of the other stuff that kind of comes with it are really fun byproducts, right? Held multiple Oscars and Emmys in my lifetime. Like, I've been to a handful of parties and I've been to a red carpet premiere. I've been on set, with clients, both movies and television. I know how the sausage is made, and it's really, really fun to kind of be an insider in that whole thing. And then growing up in Los Angeles, of course, you can't swing a dead cat without like kind of running into somebody of note. But a bunch of fun encounters here and there. But I'd probably say like the funnest kind of like scenario of organically meeting a celebrity and actually interacting with that celebrity has to be the time that I met Channing Tatum at a taco shop in Sherman Oaks. It was a very chilly evening in January, but being in Sherman Oaks, it was probably maybe 59 degrees, which I would kill for, because currently it is 0 degrees. It is no degrees. Like, look at this. Oh no. Oh wow, it's heating up. It's 1 degree. 1. Unbelievable. I don't know how I'm surviving. But anyway, I was grabbing dinner for Samantha and I. Samantha was coming back from church. That was one day that I decided that I didn't want to go with her, which validated every other decision after that to not go to church, because this is how I was rewarded. I choose not to go to church, and then I meet Channing Tatum. But he was standing directly behind me in line. He was with his then wife, Jenna Dewan. Yeah, I ordered my food. It was like an outdoor situation where you order at the window and then you walk around the corner to the kind of side big picture window and you wait for your food. And so they had a heat lamp set up there for people that were waiting outside. And so I did my order, went there. They did their order. They came next to the heat lamp, and like Channing was in gray sweatpants, cool it ladies, but yes, and like a white t-shirt, shaved head, just very, very handsome. And so they're making our food. I break the ice. I make a comment about the food, like a one-liner joke. He chuckled a little bit. He made a little one-liner about the food. I chuckled a little bit. Ice broken. And so, turn my attention, start chit-chatting. And then he goes, and this is like, kind of part and parcel of like, like a lot of the stories about how he's actually a really, really nice guy in Hollywood. He reaches out his big, like, meaty paw, and he goes, "Hi, I'm Chan." I'm like, in my head, I'm like, motherfucker, of course you're Chan. Yes, you're Chan. We all know you as Channing, but you are Chan. I'm like, "Hi, I'm Rye." No, I'm just kidding. No, I said, introduce myself as Ryan. It's like, big fan. Wife is a big fan. Introduce myself to Jenna. She's very lovely and sweet as well. And then, right before we get our food, I, kind of like, "Hey, my wife is a huge fan of yours. You mind if we take a quick picture to make her jealous?" And he leans in, do the selfie thing. I have my hand on his like left deltoid as we're, kind of doing the picture. I tell you, this man, I forget what he may have been training for, may have been like Foxcatcher or something like that, but that man was built like a brick shithouse. I swear to God. He probably at the time, even though he was having tacos and probably between projects, he probably had about like, I don't know, 7-8% body fat. But the nicest guy, one of my favorite interactions in Hollywood, and probably one of like the last few before we ended up leaving. I think it was in like 2013 or 14. But sweet guy. I hope something happens to him. I think he's gonna make it in Hollywood. That young star. Alrighty, let's see. Oh, Listen Young asks, what superpower would I want to have out of all the superpowers in the world? Now, obviously, like the really cool ones: flight, telepathy, teleportation, super strength, all that kind of stuff. That's all well and good, and those are, your kind of garden variety superheroes have those. But I think one that I would love to have for like everyday life, both professionally and for like acting and stuff like that, is like, for those of you that don't know, there's a Marvel villain called the Taskmaster. And what makes the Taskmaster formidable is that he has this kind of extremely heightened photographic memory to the point where he could instantaneously mimic any fighting style or like anything that he sees, right? So all of his weapon loadout. He's got like a sword. He's got a vibranium shield like Captain America's. He's got a bow and arrow like Hawkeye. And because he can like kind of mimic everything, he has basically everyone's kind of physical powers. And so I think being a superhuman mimic would be really, really cool. Like, to not only be able to do an impression of every single voice, both speaking and singing, would be unbelievable, but also be able to kind of act and like pick up anyone's mannerisms. So like, for example, like if I were to like maybe like touch Meryl Streep on the shoulder or Robert De Niro on the shoulder and be able to like pick up their ability to act or act exactly like them, or whatever, I think that would be really, really fun and very useful in the hobby that I've chosen to pursue. So let's see. What else? A couple more questions, because this is running about a half hour at this point. And if you're still watching, I don't know why. This is really, really long. Maybe I'll do these in shorter format later. My sister-in-law Nicole asks, which Star Wars episode is your favorite, and which character would you want to be if you were to be a character in the Star Wars universe? So, I mean, the cinephile answer for anyone is usually Empire Strikes Back, right? But as a kid, the tape that I wore out over and over and over again was Return of the Jedi. Episode 6, for those of you that are counting number 3 in the original trilogy, I just absolutely love that. Like, it was all action. It was fun. It wasn't nearly as dark as and as kind of serious as Empire Strikes Back. The good guys end up winning. All the spaceships and all like the really cool lightsaber battles at the beginning and the end. You got Jabba the Hutt. You've got Leia in her, outfit. That movie came out in 1983. I probably watched it as a 4, 5, and 6-year-old kid, which, I mean, I don't know, maybe that was a delayed awakening in me, but I felt funny whenever she was on screens. Take that for what it was. But yeah, Return of the Jedi is always going to be my favorite, despite the fact that the cool guy answer really it's typically Empire Strikes Back. If I were to be a character in any of those films, if I were to play a character, like if I were to be an actor in a character, I would be so happy being like an X-wing pilot, right? A pilot in rogue squadron who, takes out a bunch of TIE fighters in an intergalactic battle, like a space dogfight battle. I think that would be so super cool. I don't know, maybe like probably Red Squadron or Blue Squadron have like a really cool kind of like custom X-Wing helmet. Yeah, I think that would be really, really fun. Who knows? Maybe in Ryan Gosling's Star Wars movie coming up, he'll probably end up being the character that I want because he can do no wrong in my eyes. I would love to work with Ryan Gosling. That'd be amazing. I think we'll end with this one. Adam asks, and this is a testament to how long he's known me and kind of where he got to know me. My best friend Adam is my first little bro in the fraternity. Met me in 2000. And in 2000, I was smack dab in the middle of NSYNC world, and NSYNC being like my favorite thing in the entire world, knowing every bit of choreography, music video, tour, talk show performances, all of that kind of stuff. I knew everything, and I absolutely loved it. And it was 100% apparent with kind of with that was something that I loved. So Adam asks, if I were to form a boy band, who would be in it? What would you name it? And the extra wrinkle and caveat there would be that they can't have previously in another boy band, right? So that excludes the Justin Timberlakes. That actually excludes people like Michael Jackson, right? It would exclude someone like Lionel Richie, right? So the list that I came up with, I think is pretty solid. I still don't have a name for it. I think the name would probably just come organically in the studio, or we'll just let the label name us. It doesn't really matter what our name's going to be. But the first person that I thought of was Bruno Mars, which, I mean, come on, right? I think he would be fantastic in a boy band. The guy obviously can sing, he can dance, he can write, right? He could play instruments. We can go all sorts of different angles. We could be that band that actually plays instruments. We could be the band that doesn't play any instruments. Extremely versatile, right? So Bruno Mars would be there in that same vein and in that same kind of height with myself and Bruno Mars would be Prince. Somehow Prince would be shorter than all of us. But yeah, again, dynamic performer, amazing singer, prolific writer, right? Again, he too can play instruments. So like he can play the guitar, he can play the drums. Bruno Mars can play the guitar, the piano, the drums, like all we've got that taken care of. So I mean, the studio work, the performance work, the live touring, I think we've got that in the bag already with the three of us. I can't contribute any instrument stuff. I can be there with a tambourine or maybe a triangle, but it's my band. So they can do all the work. The third person I thought of to kind of switch things up would be Jonathan Bailey. Jonathan Bailey from Wicked, as he was Fiyero in the Wicked movies. He's also an extremely accomplished Broadway and West End performer. So, and if anyone has seen his performance in the first Wicked, Dancing Through Life, you know that man can sing, he can dance, he is like oozing charisma. I swear, like he's got that universal appeal. The ladies love him, the boys love him, everyone loves him. I love him. And he seems like a good hang. So I think he would keep things light and lighthearted in, those kind of writing sessions where, maybe we're at each other's throats. But yeah, super good hang, so handsome. So there's that. And then finally, to round things out, I would have Donald Glover, aka Childish Gambino. Probably pound for pound one of the most talented people I've ever kind of like witnessed. I think he's like in the different phases of his career from when, leaving college. He ended up immediately writing for 30 Rock, and then he's like, oh, I'm going to try stand-up comedy. And then he's amazing at stand-up comedy. And then he's like, oh, I want to be on a TV show. So he absolutely kills it in Community. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm really good at music and rapping. So I'm going to put my name in the Wu-Tang name generator, take that name, make that my moniker, and then be a multi-platinum selling and well-respected artist. Oh, and then I'm just gonna write my own stuff and switch over to drama and do Atlanta, and I'm gonna do movies and I'm gonna be amazing. And he is just that guy, right? It's like regardless of, what he wants to do, he's going to do it and he's going to do it successfully. And so with our powers combined, Voltron, Captain Planet, I think that would make for an extremely entertaining, very diverse, right? You've got, 1.5 Filipinos. You've got two black guys and a gay white man. I mean, that just covers the entire spectrum right there. So I don't know. If for whoever's watching, maybe you can name the band. Sound off. Let me know what that band would be called. I don't care what it's called. All I know is that we're selling out stadiums. That's going to be unbelievable. So to close it out, just wanted to say again, thank you to everyone that took the time to write, call, text, record a video, all of that kind of stuff. I am eternally grateful. It was weird. It was almost like a preview of my funeral where people were saying all these nice things about me and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. Maybe my takeaway from that is for anyone out there that's watching, maybe don't wait till someone's birthday or wait till someone is gone to tell them how much you appreciate them, how much you love them, or even say one thing that you do like about them, right? You'd be surprised at how powerful that is in terms of just making someone's day, or if you just come out of nowhere and say something positive or nice about somebody, and who knows, maybe they might be having a rough day, but then that one bit of affirmation kind of pulls them out of them having a really, really rough time. And that can be significant. A lot of times that could be life saving. I don't know, go be kind to somebody today. I guarantee you it's going to come back to you tenfold, hundredfold. But yeah, I am really optimistic about 45, the age, not the president. I don't think this will be a once a year thing. This has been kind of fun. It's been about 40 minutes and it feels like time has flown by. Maybe from time to time I get one of you on here to kind of chit chat with me about anything and nothing. Maybe I get Dave Harding back on here. This is me calling you out to talk about maybe some spring training or some baseball coming up. But until then, if this is the only thing I record for this year, thank you. I love you. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you around. So yeah, and then I'll come up with a really fun sign on and sign off maybe for another time. But until then, ciao for now. I mean, what? Wait, hold on. I'm not gonna end it that way. I've never said that. I've never said that before in my entire life. I'm just gonna say bye. That was super lame. Bye.